So Bernie Sanders is the undisputed frontrunner in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary. And as we've been covering on this channel, this reality, this fact, is causing the neoliberal media, causing Democratic Party elites, and causing the rich and wealthy and well-connected to lose their goddamn minds. And the latest piece of evidence in this regard is that a new PAC has been formed called the Beat Bernie 2020 PAC. And the whole rationale of this pact is supposedly that Bernie Sanders is too divisive, his supporters are mean on social media, he hasn't been properly vetted, he won't unite the Democratic Party, he'll tear it apart, and in all of this, he won't be able to defeat Donald Trump because he's not unifying people, and because his policies are untested and won't meet the needs of Americans as they understand them. And so, their only option is to form this PAC and ask for donations and support with a goal to informing people about the dangers of Bernie Sanders and his inability, supposedly, to defeat Donald Trump. But we should be really clear here. We have absolutely no idea who's behind the Beat Bernie 2020 PAC. They claim to be hashtag grassroots. They claim to be regular Democrats from a diverse cross-section of the party who believe many different things, but at the end of the day are united in their cause to stop Bernie Sanders from winning the nomination and hurting the party long term. But we don't know because all of the people behind this organization are trying to remain anonymous. And they say it's because they worry about retribution from Bernie Sanders' mean fans on Twitter and Facebook and other social media outlets. And they worry about repercussions. And they say that, Bernie supporters are every bit as bad as Donald Trump supporters. But here's the real deal. They're secretive because they represent the financial and political and social and economic and cultural elite of America and the Democratic Party. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some Republicans in this group. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people from the Warren camp and the Biden camp and all the other camps, along with maybe some Never Trump Republicans who are part of this group. And because they would be seen as part of this group and the mask would be off about the type of people uniting to fight against Bernie Sanders, it would only bolster Bernie's reputation as the only progressive option to not only win the nomination, but defeat Donald Trump. So they're hiding, not because they're scared, they're hiding because they don't want people to know the truth about what this organization is and who represents it when the mask is off. Don't trust an organization that right off the bat is so disingenuous and so secretive that they won't even tell you who's running it. If you look at this, I'll just quickly put it on the screen because it sort of outlines their position against Bernie. I've sort of, given you the Coles notes where they basically say he's unelectable, his supporters are too vitriolic, Bernie's been untested, he won't unite the party, too many of Bernie's supporters say they won't vote for the Democrats necessarily if he's not the nominee, and that means that Bernie and his people are in a sense holding the party at their will instead of, making an affirmative promise to vote blue no matter who. And these are all sorts of things that the founders, quote unquote, are saying. But if you read the quotes, they're not really attributed to any particular person because of this secretive approach. It's all one of our founders said, or as one of our founders noted, blah, 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 we hate Bernie Sanders. And if you go to their website, fittingly enough, because this seems like a shadow organization to funnel money to fight Bernie, there's literally just one short paragraph and your ability to give them some money, which I assume will go to anti-Bernie ads and anti-Bernie events, depending on how successful they are of raising the money. But let's read what they write about Bernie. Instead of unifying Americans against the hatred and bigotry of Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders has become one of our nation's most divisive figures. His campaign is fueled by a rogue army of online supporters who threaten, insult, and bully anyone who dares to question Sanders, and it doesn't matter if they are Democrats or Republicans. And then they basically say that, donate to us to basically take this opportunity to defeat Donald Trump, which Bernie Sanders is going to blow, and use the hashtag BeatBernie to help share your message about how we need to stop this dangerous man. But none of this is really true. Bernie Sanders supporters aren't bullies. Bernie Sanders supporters hold people to account when they lie about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders supporters don't insult people. They mock people with the level of derision that they deserve when they spread lies and misinformation and conjecture about Bernie Sanders and other progressives and Bernie Sanders' progressive policies. None of that is inappropriate. And this whole message here, which is that Bernie Sanders' people are mean on social media, and ergo we have to oppose the one candidate who's proposing to make the lives of the broad American working class better, shows me that they actually don't care about working people. And this is all a smokescreen to help ensure that one of the neoliberals wins and that Bernie Sanders and his vision aren't seen as a viable option at the general election level. Bernie Sanders is not divisive. In many of the polls I've covered on this channel, Bernie Sanders has among the highest favorability ratings among Democrats and a relatively low unfavorability rating given that he's so widely known. Bernie Sanders is extremely popular, and a recent poll that just came out that when Democratic voters were asked to consider who they would possibly vote for in the primary process, Bernie Sanders was at the very top of the list. That when people were asked, would you ever consider voting for Bernie? Would you ever consider voting for Biden? Even if he's not your first or second choice, Bernie was at the top of that list because Bernie is popular with the vast majority of Democrats, and Bernie's vision is popular with the vast majority of Democrats. And it's only Bernie Sanders who has the message and the policies to unify the hundreds of millions of diverse working and middle-class people in a common cause of defeating Donald Trump and also ushering in an era of economic and social and political equality for all. And when this says here that, like, Bernie supporters don't care whether it's Republicans or Democrats, and that's true because while Bernie and his supporters, myself included, understand the danger of Donald Trump, we will not let Democrats off the hook simply because they wear blue and have a little D next to their name. That's what makes Bernie Sanders special. Unlike everyone else in the race, he holds the political and social and economic elite to account even when they're Democrats. And that's required. You might suggest that that breaks down unity, but that accountability is what builds a stronger party, a more coherent message, and more convincing claims that you will stand with working people. Because when Bernie Sanders attacks everyone who deserves to be attacked, what that shows people is that Bernie Sanders is an honest broker who calls it like he sees it and will always do the right thing and won't allow base partisanship to cloud the reality before him. And a lot of independents are going to like to see that. A lot of infrequent voters are going to like to see that. Some Republican Democratic swing voters, especially working class iterations of those voters, are going to like to see that. And I think that's an enduring strength of Bernie and his movement, not a weakness. So this statement is absolutely full of lies. The idea that a lot of Bernie supporters won't vote for the Democrats isn't really borne out in reality. Sure, they can cite one poll, which has a good amount of Bernie supporters saying they won't absolutely lock in their vote, but we only need to look at history and realize that the vast majority of Bernie voters voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, far more than the amount of Hillary Clinton supporters voted for Barack Obama in 2008. Bernie Sanders supporters are among the highest when it comes to opposition to Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders supporters are not going to go vote Republican. Bernie Sanders supporters are not going to go pick a right-wing option if they don't get their way. Hillary Clinton and her people did. I could see some of the neoliberal Democrats doing that, but not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has been 100% clear that at the end of the day, he will back the nominee. But Bernie Sanders is the frontrunner now. And all of these people who have said that it's got to be about unity, building the team, getting ready to face Donald Trump by coming together even before the process is done, now they're shifting to attack Bernie. The Beat Bernie 2020 PAC, Elizabeth Warren, all of these unity candidates and unity groups have shifted to attacking Bernie Sanders because what they fear is that now unity means falling behind the leadership of Bernie Sanders and his movement to defeat Donald Trump and undermine the economic and social and political and cultural privilege of the rich and wealthy and well-connected. Yes, even if they wear blue and have a little D next to their name. Bernie Sanders is winning. These desperate PACs, the desperate articles you're reading, the desperate cries on social media from Neera Tanden and Jennifer Rubin and Jonathan Chait and David Frum are all the evidence you need that we are on the right track. Keep pushing, keep reaching regular working class and middle class people, because outside of the elite Beltway political Twitter bubble, the vast majority of Democrats love Bernie. He's the most popular senator in America, and he is the only one that will unite the working class to win the 2020 election.